Askreddit Asks, what sounds like fiction but is actually a real historical event.
A Chinese emperor once ran in circles around a pillar to escape an assassin. He survived.
That wasn't just a Chinese emperor. That was Qin Shi Huang. Before he united China and became the first emperor in all its history.
I've used similar tactics with my father. 10 out of 10 would run around in circles against it. No, he didn't have jumper cables.
Some guy in Australia decided he wanted to hunt rabbits, but rabbits don't live in Australia, so then he released like 12 in his backyard and now there's a fuck ton of rabbits in Australia.
Similar thing happened with goats TL. Dr. 3 goats turned into tilde tilde 500,000 tilde tilde 250. On an island. So they went in and killed them all. It's crazy. But this video, URL redacted by real life law, talks about it. Edit. To clear things up, the island had a lot of animals not found anywhere else that were starving due to the goats eating all their food. Edit 2. So turns out it was actually 250. Goats, not 500. Edit 3. This wasn't Australia.
The Glasgow ice cream wars. 6 people died in a turf war over ice cream van routes. They were dealing heroin out of the vans.
I love my city so much.
So that's why they put ice cream vans in GTA. URL redacted.
As the plane lands in Glasgow, passengers are reminded to set their watches back 25 years. Frankie Boyle.
In 2007, a paraglider got trapped in the updraft of 2 joining thunderstorms and lifted to an altitude of 10 kilometers. She landed 3.5 hours later about 60 kilometers north of her starting position, having survived extreme cold, lightning and lack of oxygen.
Holy fuck. Remember how thin the air is at the top of Mount Everest. Then realize this lady went substantially higher. How the fuck did she survive? Imagine how fucking scary that would be.
Holy fuck, she almost went out of the troposphere. In the 1800s there were street vendors in Egypt who sold ancient Egyptian mummies. Just lined them up on a street corner and sold them like they were umbrellas on a rainy day. English tourists would buy them to display as oddities.
If only they were displayed. URL redacted. Edit. Thanks for the silver. Now I know what horrors I have to find to get the upvotes.
The marathon at the 1904 Olympics in St. Louis. The first place finisher did most of the race in a car. He had intended to drop out, and got a car back to the stadium to get his change of clothes, and just kind of started jogging when he heard the fanfare. The second place finisher was carried across the finish line, legs technically twitching, by his trainers. They had been refusing him water, and giving him a mixture of brandy and rat poison for the entire race. Doping wasn't illegal yet, and this was a terrible attempt at it. So he got the gold when the first guy was revealed. Third finisher was unremarkable, somehow. Fourth finisher was a Cuban mailman, who had raised the funds to attend the Olympics by running non-stop around his entire country. He landed in New Orleans, and promptly lost all of the traveling money on a riverboat casino. He ran the race in dress shoes and long trousers cut off at the knee by a fellow competitor with a knife. He probably would have come in first, well, second, behind the car, had it not been for the hour nap he took on the side of the track after eating rotten apples he found on the side of the race. 9th and 12th finishers were from South Africa, and ran barefoot. South Africa didn't actually send a delegation, these were students who just happened to be in town and thought it sounded fun. 9th was chased a mile off course by angry dogs. Note: these are the first Africans to compete in any modern Olympic event. Half the participants had never raced competitively before. Some died. St. Louis only had one water stop on the entire run. This, coupled with the dusty road, and exacerbated by the cars kicking up dust, lead to the above fatalities. And yet, somehow, rat poison guy survived to get the gold. The Russian delegation arrived a week late, because they were still using the Julian calendar. In 1904. Seriously, this needs to be a movie. If this sounds familiar, I'm reposting myself. A town in France nearly danced itself to death in 1518 because of a dancing plague.
For the lazy. Here's the wiki, URL redacted, wiki, dancing_plague_of_1518, on this. And also, here's a second, URL redacted, news, what was the dancing plague of 1518, about it.
That plague wasn't even an isolated incident.
The longest piano piece of any kind is Vexations by Erik Satie. It consists of a 180-note composition which, on the composer's orders, must be repeated 840 times so that the whole performance is 18 hours 40 minutes. Its first reported public performance in September 1963, in the Pocket Theater, New York City, required a relay team of 10 pianists. The New York Times critic fell asleep at 4 a.m. and the audience dwindled to 6 masochists. At the conclusion, one sadomasochist shouted, "Encore!"
This 639-year-long concert is underway right now. URL redacted.
URL redacted, wiki, Jack_Baboon, a baboon who was employed to change rail signals. After initial skepticism, the railway decided to officially employ Jack once his job competency was verified. The baboon was paid 20 cents a day, and a half bottle of beer each week. It is widely reported that in his 9 years of employment with the railroad, Jack never made a mistake. I wonder what that salary negotiation was like.
Somebody send this to Carl Pilkington.
There were a few Japanese soldiers who refused to surrender after World War II and remained on duty in the rainforest for 30 years after the war ended.
Wait, so that Archer episode was a joke of a real thing? OMG.
The Great Stink of London in 1858. One summer the heat dried up the River Thames, where all the human waste went, and an unbearable smell pervaded throughout the entire city. All Parliament representatives were eventually coerced out of their homes outside of London to convene and solve the issue. Much to the citizens' glee, Parliament was held in their building on the bank of the River Thames, resulting in one of the fastest Parliament decisions ever made to reform the London sewer system. Edit. Grammar.
Oh man, you're selling this short. They didn't conscript Wojtek. They enlisted him when command specifically said they couldn't take him when they deployed. The bear was given rations. For bunk. Even beer and cigarettes just like any other soldier. And he actually served in the field. The unit was responsible for distributing munitions like artillery shells. And Wojtek, and I am not joking here, would help them move crates. The bear would literally pick up 100-pound crates of shells by himself and stack them up where they needed to go. Wojtek was not a mascot enlisted for giggles. The bear was a soldier. Edit. My first ever gold. Thanks everyone. I'm glad you all liked hearing about Wojtek. I just love telling people about him. It's one of my favorite stories.
He also reportedly discovered and cornered a spy at one point.
Return of Napoleon army was sent to intercept him. And they ended up fighting for him. If it were shown in a movie most people would have considered it cheesy and unrealistic.
The rise and fall of Alexander the Great. Never lost a battle in his life. Conquered the whole known world. And only stopped because his soldiers were tired.
And then died of the flu when he was like 32.
Honestly, his life should be a vaccine commercial, no matter how great you are. Vaccines will save your life.
The town of Rothenburg ob der Tauber in Germany. One of the country's oldest and most preserved cities. Essentially during the 30 Years' War, the Catholic army wanted to destroy the town because they resisted the church. Count Bon Tilly, sounds like a Monty Python name, was going to destroy the town. But as a gesture of peace the town offered him a mass 3.25 L of local wine. He declared that if anyone in the town could drink the mass of wine in one go, he would spare the town and move on. Then someone just walked up and did it. So the army left. Much later during World War II, when the US was performing air raids, someone in the White House knew of this town and pleaded that we do not destroy it. So it has been saved from 2 wars, all because one guy chugged a bunch of wine. Edit. Apparently there was some damage done in World War II, but I don't know if it was bombed. It's also not one of the oldest cities but one of the most preserved. I just posted from memory from my German culture and history class in college. Thanks for the feedback.
The assassination of Rasputin reads like a cartoon.
I'm always scared to say this, in case it puts the curse of Reddit on him. But for 3 weeks in December 1916, Rasputin and Kirk Douglas were alive at the same time. The assassination of the Archduke Franz Ferdinand too. Guess back then assassinations just had a slapstick look. Neil.
Thank you for watching. Please like and subscribe to support the channel, and above all, have an excellent day you incredible people.